Welcome to our brand new owners club then of the BetaFPV Pavo20 Pro Mark II 4S. And just before we get into the setup, because this is going to be super simple, super quick and super straightforward for this drone, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the spec, because our adventure videos or review videos now, they don't necessarily sit there and talk about the spec and explain all this, that and the other. What we do is we take the drone out for a day or a few days and we have an adventure with it, and if it survives the adventure, you know that it's worth your money. Now, our adventure video is already released. I hope you're enjoying watching it. And this is sort of the more technical aspect of that. So first of all, I just want to talk a little bit about prices, what you get in this instead of the original Pavo20 Pro, and so on and so forth. So first of all, if you want to buy it with the O4 Pro, it's going to come in at about $365. 220 of those dollars are going to be your O4 Pro. For a plug and play version, so you've got the ELRS, you've got the motors, everything is together. You just have to slot in your own O4 Pro into this canopy and slide it on. That's going to cost you $105. Now, it's using the new Cube 4S 30 amp all-in-one flight controller, and we have got an unboxing of that on the channel as well, just showing you what that is all about. It uses an integrated serial ELRS receiver. So what that means in layman's terms is you can upgrade this ELRS version whenever you want, unlike the ones that are tied to the board. Even though it's technically built into the board, because it's a serial version, you can upgrade it and update it whenever you want. And we'll have a look at the procedure for that as we go through this setup video. We've got an expanded battery bay. So on the old Pavo20 Pro, what you noticed is this battery bay had slots on the side of it, and those slots stopped you installing a battery that was much bigger than the ones that basically came with it. This allows you to basically put a much bigger battery on there, and we was running a 680 mAh 4S. So this has got a cleaner layer, redesigned internal cable route, and significantly minimizes electrical noise and signal interference. Yeah. I mean, we flew it in crazy locations. We did mental stuff with it, and we didn't have any problems. So, yeah. We'll give them that one. Screw lock propellers. Now, anybody who saw my Pavo20 Pro video about 3 weeks ago, we did a hand takeoff with the original Pavo20 Pro. Makes sense to go and get it, doesn't it, really? So this is the difference in the battery compartment. You can see this battery compartment, it's got these prongs at the side of it, whereas this one is completely flat. So you can get a much wider battery in there that you wouldn't be able to get. Now, underneath as well, the next point that BetaFPV make, and this is perfect. This is really good, because you can see we don't have a propeller here because we lost it. And that was just on takeoff. It literally exploded on takeoff. I think what actually happened was it shook itself a little bit loose on takeoff, smashed against the sides here, and then obviously exploded. Now we're up to 4S, so we're using some serious revolutions per minute. So we need these screws in the propellers. So make sure when you replace them, because I do get this quite a lot. People say to me, I've got this drone, I've replaced the props, and now all my propellers are just flying off. Why are they just flying off? Should I glue them on? Absolutely not. And under no circumstances glue your props on. But if you've got something like this, you need to screw them in. 3S generally isn't a massive problem, despite the fact that it was a problem for me. Yeah, despite the fact that it was a problem for me, 3S generally isn't a problem. You don't generally need to screw them in, but it is what it is. Pavo20 Pro II features Gemfan D 2.2 3-bladed props. This ensures zero slipping under high torque and guarantees the motor shafts remain locked. Well, we finished flying. You can see there's loads of grass all over it, and we've still got 4 props. So again, we'll give them that. It's also got a buzzer on it now, and I think I may have some footage that I can just overlay into this to show you the buzzer. GPS ready. 2 factory provided mounting brackets are included, offering native compatibility with standard 12x12 and 18x18 GPS mounts. They're in the box. We're going to do that in another video. We're just going to really make it simple for this particular one. Now, that all being said, if you want to install the GPS, we've got a video on how to install the GPS on the original Pavo20 Pro, and it's very similar when it comes to the Pavo20 Pro Mark II. But if you get the Flyfish one, you can just attach it here, so you don't necessarily need anything else other than that. But the box does now include some stuff. Right, specification-wise, so Pavo20 Pro Mark II comes in at 72 grams. The original apparently also comes in at 72 grams. Now mine's going to be a little bit skewed because I do have that GPS on there, but let's just very quickly check the weights. So 121 grams, that obviously the 72 grams is without the O4 Pro. 121 grams. I mean, I am missing an antenna off that. There is quite a difference, and I don't know why. If I'm honest, there you go. It doesn't feel any heavier in the air, so I'm not quite sure what that's all about. But yeah, they're both listed as exactly the same in my little media kit, which tells me they're both 116 grams, excluding a battery once the O4's been installed. It says it's compatible with the O4 and the O4 Pro. Wheelbase is going to be the same. Both 2mm top thick plates, 29mm battery bay. Recommended is a 580 or a 680 4S, which is what we've used on the channel for the videos. Thrust to weight ratio, they're both apparently coming in with the O4 at 8.4.1. And now this is a test that we're going to do in the future, actually. It tells us that the Pavo20 Pro 4S will fly for 10.5 minutes on a 680 mAh 4S. And it tells us the 3S version on a 580 mAh will fly for... No, sorry, on a 680 mAh, will fly for 9 minutes. So this should get an extra minute and a half. We're going to test that claim out. No, this should get an extra minute and a half, sorry. But we're going to test that claim out. Okay, so that is the detail of the spec and everything that you need to know about this upgrade. I'm going to move the old one out of the way so we don't get confused because I am a bit of an idiot. Now, once you have received your Pavo20 Pro, in your box is going to be one of these. These things I didn't used to like. I don't mind them anymore, but I didn't used to like them because I used to lose them all the time. But now I've got millions of them, so it doesn't really matter. You need to plug this into your flight controller. Once you plug it into your flight controller, you then plug it into a USB. So let's do that. Okay, so you plug it into your flight controller here. Make sure the pins are facing down on it, and then plug into your USB like so. You'll know if you've done it right because you'll get lights flashing. And let's have a quick look at these lights flashing first of all, so we know exactly what we're doing. This green light that's flashing very slowly is our ELRS light, and that tells us it's in ready to receive mode because it's waiting for a bound controller to be turned on. But we don't have a bound controller because we're brand new to this. What we're going to have to do is bind it. Now, we can power it on 3 times if we want and change that status, or we can head over to the PC and we can press a button in Betaflight and it'll do it for us. Okay, so head over to app.betaflight.com, press connect, and then scroll down to receiver and hit bind receiver. Now, if we've done it in time, and we have, you can now see that same LED has gone from single flashing, where are we? There, has now gone from single flashing to double flashing. And double flashing means we're in ready to receive a bind mode. So if we just move this over here so you can still see it, move our controller forward. This is the loudest controller in the world, so 1 second. So we go into our Express ELRS Lua script and we scroll down to where it says bind. I'm double checking that because I'm behind. Now, there's 2 things I want you to watch out for. First of all, watch out for this light changing. And then secondly, in the corner here, that will change to a C to say we are connected. So we're now binding. Watch the light here. Did something and now it's gone solid. And now over here you can see a C. So we're now connected. And if we look on a PC, we can now see that our control surfaces are working in the right order that we want them to work in. So that's perfect. We don't need to do or change anything there. If we go over to our modes tab, what we're going to need to do now, we're going to need to enable arm switch. Now, if you don't know which button it is which, and you just want to press a button and have it figure it out, if you change that to auto, the next time you press any switch, it will automatically, hence the name, select that switch. So that's now auto. That's now gone from auto to aux 1. And the armed state you need it to be in is when this line and this line converge and cross each other. So that's a disarmed state and that's an armed state. Now, I don't want it like that. I want it like that. So now I'm in the armed state and now I'm in the disarmed state. Do exactly the same for the rest of them. However you want to set them up on whichever button. If you're not sure which button it is, you can always change it to auto. And if you get feeling like you're getting a little bit, advanced now with all this stuff and you're thinking, well, actually, I want to know which button is which. If you go into your receiver tab and you've got all of the aux buttons here, if If you throw one of these switches, it then shows you so that's aux 1, as we now know, and this one is aux 2, and this has a 3-position switch on it. So if we go back into here now, we want the beeper on aux 2 and the LEDs on aux 2 and hit save. If we now move this same switch, without even knowing which switch it was before, we've worked it out. So you can either hit auto in the corner there at the top, or you can go into your receiver tab and work out which one it is. There's no right or wrong answer. Make it as easy or as difficult for yourself as you want. It really is entirely up to you. Okay, so I'm going to turn the controller off because we've done everything we need to do with that controller now. I'm going to pop that down on the desk. We're going to go through each one of these setups now in here and work out exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So in your setup, just make sure that your drone, when it's plugged in, if we just press reset the axis so that we can see that it's in the right way, push forward, it goes forward, push back, it goes back, push right, and push left. So that's set up perfectly fine, so you don't need to do anything. If that was wrong, you would have to go to configuration and board alignment and change the roll, the pitch, or the yaw degrees, depending how that board has been put up in there. However, if it's right, whatever you do, don't touch it. Now, check in the ports tab to make sure your ports tab looks exactly like this. If it doesn't look exactly like this, pause the video and make it look exactly like this. That's the only way that you're not going to have a problem. Configuration, the only thing you really need to touch in here is your arming angle. And I mention it like I do on every single video, but Betaflight default is 25 degrees. And that means if it's anything over that, it won't arm. And you might think, well, I put it on a flat surface to arm it. Why is that a problem? Well, if you're stuck in a tree like that and you want to arm the motors and shake it out of the tree, if it's set to 25 degrees, you can't. So make sure it's always set to 180 degrees, because that means even if you're stuck in a tree like that, it'll still arm. You can enable RX loss beacons, and that'll make the motors make a noise when you don't have a signal from your controller. So if you crash it, you don't know where it is, but it's still plugged in, you could just turn your controller off and it'll start beeping. You can add a beeper to the switch as well, like we've just shown you, but that's also another way of doing it. Power and battery, the only thing we need to do in here is make sure that this is set to 4.4 volts, and that's because we're running LIHV batteries. LIHV batteries charge to 4.35, the default is 4.3, and that means basically it will see it as a dead 5 cell instead of a fully charged 4 cell. You'll be able to fly for as long as normal, but your OSD will be telling you to land now from the second you take off. Failsafe, we've got set to drop because we don't have a GPS in this yet. We are going to put a GPS in it, but it arrived a couple of days before the release was due, and we just haven't had time to do that. We have got a couple of other follow-up videos coming, including endurance and that sort of jazz. Presets, why are my presets not working? I don't know. I'll look at that. Presets, generally speaking, you don't really need them. You can add the 250 Hertz ELRS in there if you need. Now, pitch tuning. If you need a copy of the pitch tune, pause the video. And if you need a copy of the filter tune, pause the video. I will upload a copy of the CLI to my Discord. Now, that will also have my rates on it. Now, these are my rates. Just bear in mind, rates are very, very personal to the pilot. This may be too fast for some people. This may be too slow for some. Why has it got a throttle curve and a throttle expo on it? What I will say is, throughout the adventure video that we filmed, flying it and doing all the crazy stuff, I never actually noticed that it had a throttle expo on it, which I guess is a good thing. But yeah, we'll turn that off. Receiver tab we've done, modes tab we've done. GPS we don't need to do because we haven't got a GPS. Adjustments and motors, again, we don't need to do because it's all set up for us. If you're building one of these yourself, then maybe have a look in here and see how this is set up. OSD is incredibly personal to every pilot. I generally leave it set up how it's come. The only thing is I will generally add, if it's not on there, is obviously my LQ and dBmi values. Video transmitter we don't need because it's not analog, and LED strip is on here so that you can change the LED strip here. But generally speaking, you can just use it on a switch or press the button at the back there. Sensors, tether log and a black box we don't need. The only thing I would advise new pilots to do, and I'm putting this in pretty much all of my videos now, is to add easy landing. Now, for anybody that doesn't know what easy landing is, if you're flying in air mode, and that's how this is set up, when you come into land, you'll get bounces like this, and it'll just constantly bounce. And that's a PID loop thinking you're in air mode, thinking, hang on, I need to reassert my authority in the air. What you want is to come in for a landing, touchdown, and then the motors are still spinning and you're not bouncing up and down. And that's really easy to achieve. You can leave air mode on, so you're still going to have the same authority in the air without any problems whatsoever. But by doing what we're about to do now, instead of bouncing as you land, you're coming for a landing and it'll be nice and smooth like that. And to do that is dead simple. Set mixer type equals easy landing and hit enter. Now that's turned on your mixer type to easy landing. If you just type in save now, you've done it. That's it. Easy landing is now turned on. Now, we didn't have it turned on for the adventure video, but I will show you an example of that on a future video. I'm not going to show you on this video, I'm afraid, because again, time is, I'm afraid, against us. But we've set everything up in Betaflight. The only other thing we need to do now is take a look in ELRS. And to do that, we need the drone to go into Wi-Fi mode. To go into Wi-Fi mode, we just need to go from this status, single flashing, to really fast flashing. And we do that by literally waiting. Depending how it's set up, it's either 30 or 60 seconds. Generally, we just wait for it to start flashing really, really quickly. Okay, so now we've moved into Wi-Fi mode, what we need to do on the PC is, okay, so moving on then to binding up your O4 or O4 Pro. If you've got goggles 3, this is how we're going to do it. If you've got goggles 2, it's a slightly different procedure, but very similar. So for the goggles 3, what you do is once it's powered on like this, you just hold the power button down. Don't press it, just hold it until it starts beeping. Okay, if you've got goggles 2, there is a button in here that you would press down and hold. Grab yourself a lipo and plug in your drone. And we've got nothing but noise going on. And then grab yourself something small and pointy and push it into this hole here. Once it starts to flash like that, it's then trying to bind. That stopped beeping. You're now bound. So you're now bound to your goggles. And the great thing is you're now almost ready to go. I'm going to link a video down below for how to activate your O4 Pro if it's a brand new one, some of the best settings to use, and some of the issues that you might come across when you're trying to bind it and what they might be caused with and how to fix them. Okay, but that is it. We've done everything we need to do. We've bound our goggles, we've bound our controller, we've set up our switches, we've set our rates if need be. Everything is done and we are now ready to go out there and fly. Like I say, there'll be a video link down below for the ELRS settings and how to update it and all that sort of jazz. And there'll be a video link down below of how to update your O4 Pro if you need to, and some of the best settings that you need. The best settings, of course, depend on the amount of light that you've got in the situation, so don't take it as read, but the video will explain all that to you anyway. Now, if you haven't already seen it, head over and watch our adventure video with this thing and see how much punishment we put it through, and yet it's still sat here on the table in one piece. Got any questions whatsoever, drop them in the comments down below. Till next time, peace. YouTube and I have had a chat, and we believe that this is the video that you'll like the most, so watch it and let me know if they're right.